It's almost the end of day 9, and this is my update on my build, how it works, some changes that I made to the build, and some items, some end game items that I managed to craft. I have to mention that after getting the Mage Blood, I really didn't feel like pushing, so my progression was slow, but nonetheless I made quite a significant progression, and I've made some changes to the build, but in general it's still the same build. Um, this is the update. Um, the wand it's still the same shield, the same amulet. They could be crafted even further. The difference is somewhat significant, but to be honest, I'm not farming Ubers and I don't care. My build is good enough. In terms of items that I crafted, basically everything here except the amulet, the shield, and the wand have been crafted after achieving the Mage Blood. These are my flasks. The most important one is going to be reduced mana cost of skills and additional elemental resistances. As you can see, they're not perfect. I just simply could not be bothered to roll them to 70% increased effect. This is my granite flask, is almost perfect, and I have silver flask because last league silver flask with increased effect is very compatible. It works really well. It increases your effect of onslaught. Now, because I'm using a silver flask and I don't have a basalt flask, which I usually run on my build, that means I'm having less armor. And if I use Molten Shell, it's going to absorb about 3.2k damage. But there's a catch here, and the catch is this. I'm taking Litty Shade together with this damage over time mastery with less damage taken from damage over time. That means I'm taking a lot of barely even touched by damage over time, but the debuffs on me last a lot. Even though I have this Soul of Harakali, which says debuffs on you expire 20% faster. Still, bleeding will last for about 20 seconds. And here's the problem with having Molten Shell. I cannot recover the energy shield, whereas with this one, because of Steel Skin, I can remove the bleeding. I'm element immune, so there is no ignite. And also, I have this bubbling divine life flask for poison. So most of the time, Litty Shade is not going to be an issue. I can't think of anything right now that would pose a threat in general mapping. And for bosses, Litty Shade is obviously mandatory. A node right here that I used to have was enemies are hindered, but apparently it doesn't work with temporal chains, and I was not aware of this interaction, so I had to drop that point. Other than that, the three pretty much similar, except I dropped some area of effect nodes right here. I took the jewel here with um, malevolence, Watcher's Eye, and I took some spell suppression. But you don't have to. If you don't have a mage blood, you don't have to go for this for spell suppression unless you're farming bosses. If you're not farming bosses, don't bother with spell suppression. Don't bother with the prismatic, with the Watcher's Eye prismatic jewel. And to be honest, even this corrupted soul, glorious vanity in the name of Doriani is not really that useful. This gives me some resistances and some increased maximum life. I dropped this here with exposure inflict minus 18, and on my gloves I have this. Sometimes it could be um, bad because there is some from time to time appears a rare monster that is very tough, and I cannot kill him, and or I kill him very slow, and I wish I had exposure. But most of the time it's not an issue. For unique bosses, this is perfect. These are my rings. I'm not going to go into detail how I crafted these items because I already have videos on my channel. If you're interested, you can go watch those. This is my chest piece. This is the other ring. Um, The amulet can be crafted further, but uh, really it doesn't really make a difference. I mean, it makes a difference, but it's not that huge. I still have Ash, Frost, and Storm, and I dropped this node right here with Elemental Focus. The reason why, from my Crucible right here, I got this increased effect of chill 40%. Mm. The boots, look at them, there's Scorched Ground while moving. Basically, let's remove the footprint. When I'm moving, as you can see, there are some flames behind me, and if the enemy sits, stands in those flames, he will have his resistances lowered. That's the whole idea of Scorched Ground. Chance to avoid elemental elements, and because I have a Mage Blood, here I have 35% chance to avoid elemental elements. Here I have chance to avoid being stunned. I'm stun immune. I'm casting very fast. This flask gives me reduced mana cost of skills. Increased armor, phasing, spell suppression. This gives me recovery and immunity to poison. Now, in one of my videos, I mentioned that it's very good to use anomalous efficiency instead of elemental focus on Cold Snap and instead of Swift Affliction on the Sixling. The reason why I dropped it is because I have so much damage that it really doesn't make a difference if I have the efficiency. And I happen to have these links right here, so I didn't want to use Hypothermia and drop both Swift Affliction and Elemental Focus for efficiency and Hypothermia. So that is one thing. But because I have so much damage, if you don't have so much damage, just go with the efficiency. It's still good enough. The enemies will die. In terms of the other gems on my helmet, because of the plus 2, I have Defiance Banner because these are all AoE. Determination, Vitality, and Malevolence. Here I have Steel Skin with Shield Charge, Faster Attacks, Divergent Clarity, Elemental Weakness, Temporal Chains, Blasphemy Support. I should be having Awakened Blasphemy level 5, but to be honest I was just being lazy. But definitely if you have the currency and the mental fortitude to go and make a trade to buy an Awakened Blasphemy, go and buy the Awakened Blasphemy with 20% quality, it's much better. But I was just being lazy and it worked just fine. And here we have the Volt Cold Snap with Bone Chill. Divergent is very important to be divergent. Elemental Focus, Control Distraction. Elemental Focus both on my body armor and on my gloves needs to be with 20% quality, but I didn't have GCPs and couldn't be bothered making a trade because the difference is really not that huge, to be honest. But in a min-maxing scenario, you definitely quality your gems. In terms of level, I'm still level 95. Probably next upgrade would be to take these jewel sockets, go for the imbalanced guard, impossible escape with Soul of Steel prismatic skin. If I get a shield with plus 2 maximum resistances or plus 3 to maximum resistances, then I'm going to anoint crystal skin and drop this Ash, Frost, and Storm. And this is pretty much the build. These are the masteries. Here, obviously, you can take the skill effect duration, and you don't really have to go for lead shade. But I used it just because. In terms of the Pantheon, it's going to be Soul of Arakali all upgraded, and the Soul of Rarakesh is mandatory because you take too much damage from blading while moving. And for poison, you have this flask. For stun immunity, at least in my case I have this, but even if you don't have stun immunity, it's not that big of an issue most of the time. Sometimes, yeah, it could be nice to have stun immunity, but most of the time it's not an issue. This was the update. At this point, I just want to finish the challenges and be done with the league because, to be honest, there's really not much for me in this league right now. Um, yeah, that was it.